So after the last year or so, I've been setting up Boris' suspension, and I feel like this is the final part. As you can see there, I almost rolled it recently with a very stiff anti-roll bar. So I have finally opted to go for the X Engineering X Deflex product, which I bought recently from Foundry 4x4 and X Engineering. And today we're going to put it in. Once again, it's not going to be an install film, it's more of my experience of the install and using it. So let's get cracking. So here we go then, getting the actual kit out of the bag and starting to assemble it. I used a mix of a install video on YouTube that I'll mention later and the X Engineering official instructions. They are unfortunately a little bit outdated, but with a bit of ingenuity across those two bits of instructions, you'll get there in the end. There are a few things that are different, as I mentioned, that might just make you hang up a little bit, but just bear with it, make sure everything's the right way round, and just sort of take a look at everything before you start and just assess everything and make sure everything's in the right place, and you will get there. It's a bit fiddly. Half of it is assembled here on the floor, and then you go onto the car and put the rest of it together. I'd say the most fiddly bit is the actual freewheeling hub section. There's probably 3 or 4 plates you have to sandwich together with a collar with a little bolt in it, and that is coming up in a little bit. So now we're moving on to the chassis, and we're going to bolt it down with these new spacers that actually aren't even featured in the instructions at all. So these I had to work out how to put them on, and they're sort of a C shape, as you can see, or a J, and they sort of use both sides to create one big space, if you imagine it. I was quite shocked to see they weren't a full circle, because I wouldn't think they're that strong, but obviously this very thick metal, it means they're going to be super strong, and it has been tested and has been working. My suspension setup from a previous owner has a very strange spring retaining clip at the bottom, so I had to get rid of that. That was in the way. The actual sort of drop arm from the rear left X arm there is quite tight to the spring, but so far so good, it hasn't been rubbing. What I did do is actually cut a little bit of the mount out that comes down off on those arms, and just gives it that little bit more space. I'm not sure if my rear chassis when it was replaced is slightly closer, but it definitely seems like it's a bit closer than it would want to be. Here you can see me going through the final steps, putting the bolts together, and it is really coming together now, which is nice, as it is quite a complicated thing to do, but hopefully the instructions online will be able to help you. At this point I was hoping that I did everything right, as it is quite vague, but thankfully looking back now from the future, I can say I did it well. And if there are any questions when you're installing yours, put them down in the comments below, or do message me on Instagram. I'm happy to help, and hopefully Foundry/X Engineering can update the information in the future. So there you go then, that's all done. It's taken a little bit longer than I expected, a little bit of a mess down there behind me. A mix between the online instructions, which are slightly wrong. It's actually changed since those instructions, and the spacers of the chassis are a bit different, so a few bits of guesswork there. But I have to say, between those instructions and the All for Overland video on YouTube, I definitely shout him out. He bought one himself and fitted it, and it's a great set of instructions to use his. I think there's a couple of things that are different from the instructions there, so you have to interpret both. You'd hope that maybe they'll update them soon, but apart from that, it's gone on nice and easily. It's just a bit fiddly here and there, doing it on your own, but generally looks good. Now I'm going to take it out on the road test drive and see the difference locked and unlocked.
The only thing you can do is go for a little drive and see if when it's unlocked it flexes more than when it's locked, I guess, or when it's locked it's any worse or better than the old bar. So at the moment it's quite hard to tell. I've come down this road many times with different suspension setups, and I think you do get a bit of a placebo effect. I would say at the moment it feels a little bit more, I don't know, responsive, like something's flexing and then catching. Maybe there's a bit of flex there. It'll be interesting to have a look at the footage from the GoPro as well. But at the moment it's not feeling all that different from before, which probably means it feels the same with a bit of a placebo effect. So what I'll do, go up to the end of this road, pull over, unlock it, and see how we go. So if anyone doesn't know how it works exactly, you probably worked it out from the install, but you just go down to the back here and you've got the freewheeling hub, and all you need to do, that's locked now, is twist it around into 2-wheel drive mode. There's 4x2 and 4x4 there. Now that should be unlocked.
and freewheeling effectively. Not going to be able to test it properly until we're off-road, but it's a good chance to see if there's any feeling difference on the road as well.
Yeah, that's funny. What it used to be like, it just wallows around a lot more. It's not like, you know, it's not massively noticeable, but you just feel less in control, which is just what you want. You want to be more in control with those anti-roll bars, and yeah, it seems to be working so far. It remains to be okay. I'm not used to it like this. It's very vague now, and actually, as soon as it starts to kick over, it turns in more, and you get more of effect. So, yeah, you can definitely feel it.
So skip forward a month or so, and I've been driving with them on the road for a little while. We head up to Wales in a convoy with good friends at the Grit camp, and we got Boris off-road and managed to unlock it up there. It was a lovely place to try and test it out. The first few lanes weren't too rugged, but then we head up to Elan Valley, where there were quite a few rutted bits, big rock steps, and a few undulations, which was perfect to test it.
So we did this lane about probably a month ago, I'd say, when Boris had the old roll bar in, the 28mm terra firma one, and obviously that one you can't unlock. Unlike this one, so it's a good test. I've probably done about a month's worth of driving, many miles with this new X-Engineering one, which you can unlock. And this is the first trip when I've been able to actually unlock it and air the tyres down. And you can definitely feel the difference immediately. Around some of the tighter bends around Wales, you can feel it lean over quite a bit. And then coming up here, there's quite some sort of cross-axle action going on. There's not too much, but unlocking it and being able to use it as it should be seems really nice. Like, you're not rocking around side to side as much. Obviously it's not going to soften the suspension down or anything like that, but it definitely seems to be more compliant. And just then we did get a bit hung up, but I put the diff lock on and it was absolutely brilliant. So far so good. The only thing I'm sort of thinking about it is that it's quite close to the axle, and I don't know if it's hitting or not. It just seems very tight, but first impressions seem really good off-road.
This lane was good because it wasn't too intense. It was a good sort of taster session, and the one thing you can take away from it with lowered pressures is the comfort. You're not getting thrown from side to side like on the Clare end dam we went with the 28mm anti-roll bar, and you were getting thrown around, so that has ended, which is really nice. And now we're back at that spot which you saw earlier, and seeing this Ford just go up there with a bit of ease. And as you can see, last time I was here with the roof tent and an anti-roll bar, I almost rolled it. Yeah, that was pretty scary. Everyone on the trip had their hands over their mouths, and I was sort of unaware, really. It was a bit of a scary moment, and thankfully this time, hopefully, it's going to be a lot better. I didn't quite go as far over left as last time. I'm going further over right, but it just breezed up it completely easily. The rear axle just flexed on the way up and took it in its absolute stride, which is brilliant. Next time I go up, I will be trying the old line, and hopefully it can do it. Generally, I'm very happy with this after a month and a half or 2 months of ownership, and I can definitely recommend it. Perhaps in the future, I'll see how it lasts, as it is quite a new product out in the market. Not that much testing, not that much coverage on it. So I'm going to report back on the longevity, but for now, it's a good initial impression, and I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.